We're Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show this morning. As you know, Friday is the special edition. It is Ask the Experts. This is where we take your questions and give you a comprehensive answer that will be helpful for your life and for your marriage. My name is Hasani, and these are the dynamic Couples Academy practitioners. Introduce yourself quickly.
Hi, I'm Angel.
I'm Janella.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're here to get it this morning. I hope you have your questions. Now, don't do what you typically do. You wait till 2 minutes before the end of the show, and then everybody starts asking the questions. We can't help you. So we're going to give you a second to post your question. In the meantime, Last Chance Weekend, August 12th through the 14th. Always excited about that, to have couples come from all over the world. Let's check out a testimonial of a couple who recently went through the Last Chance Weekend, and then we'll get into today's discussion. So post your questions and let's get it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Jenkins. I'm from Washington, D.C. My husband and I were going through a very rough time, and I really didn't know where to turn. I said a prayer to God to point me in the right direction. And the next thing you know, I was looking at a video. And it was an amazing video by Danielle Pettiford of Couples Academy. And it was like she was sitting on the edge of my bed talking to me as a personal friend. And I kept looking at one video after the next video. And the next thing you know, I was like telling my husband, you know what, if we have any type of chance, let's check this Last Chance Weekend out. I think that can turn our life around. And it did. They are an amazing team. Every single person has so much compassion, so much love for what they do. It has been an amazing weekend. We have learned so much about ourselves, so much about each other. And I believe that we do have the right tools to turn this thing around. Neither one of us were really into therapy. We thought about it, but then never really took a step forward. I'm saying if you're on the fence, give it a try. Make one appointment. Talk to Hasani. Let him know your story, and he will guide you from there. Just take the first step, and I guarantee you, you won't regret it. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy Show. Listen, we want you to get everything that you can out of our program. There's some of you around the world who may not be in a position to do anything with anyone in regards to getting professional help. So this is why we provide this platform. And oftentimes we have discovery calls where you're just asking questions. And I'm like, well, that's what this show is for. Now you have a team of practitioners that can weigh in on your situation. So we want you to post your questions so that we can get started. Ben Scott, good morning, loyal viewer. We want to go to his comment. It says, good morning from Tennessee. What do you do when your betrayed spouse, who is a 5, says they can't wait for you to process the grief, stating that I'll never get over the affair. He goes on to say, 8s are usually not represented on here. Not true. I'm the unfaithful. During the affair, let the sweet inner me out with the affair partner. My spouse saw it and keeps reminding me I'm broken since ending it. Dude, you're writing a book. She said, we're two wounded people cohabitating. It's hard to cut off those loyal to me like I removed an appendage. The 8 is formed when innocent is violated. That's a whole lot. I don't know. Your question is in there somewhere. I guess it's at the very beginning when you actually asked, what do you do when your betrayed spouse, who is a 5, says that they can't wait for you to process the grief? Jeff, I want you to weigh in on this and we'll go round robin.
So this is classic. So typically when 8s and 5s and 6s get together, when those two get together, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of miscommunication and there's a lot of misdirecting of things. So when a 5 says, I can't wait for you to process the grief, that's because a 5 is always processing. Like you can't even, sometimes they think they say things because they've processed it so many times in their head. They think they actually said it out of their mouths. And so I did tell you that. And so she's processing. So it's learning how to communicate with a 5 it's imperative. It's one of the things we dig into in Last Chance Weekend, but also like Danielle is amazing at this. And I would definitely recommend that you get a session with her, if nothing else, to do the Enneagram specially, because that's what she focuses on. As far as being an 8 and letting your soft side out, I would bet your wing is a 7. I'm guessing your wing is a 7 if you have that soft side. You're dealing with a 5 and you're used to being in control, and you have someone you can't talk to because they're not necessarily speaking back. They may be shutting down unless they're a social 5. And so there's a lot that goes into this beyond what you just read. You really should talk to an expert who actually knows what they're doing. Or I would consider Last Chance Weekend, because we have amazing breakthroughs with situations. And I just went through the same situation at the last Chance Weekend, 8 and a 6, actually 8 and a 5.
It's a very common pairing. And when you really understand those two in a relationship, there is breakthrough and transformation that can happen. It's just having an awareness of one another and knowing how to navigate through those differences. But, you know, Angel is an 8, right? So, Angel, I want you to speak to him through your lens.
Hey, Ben, what's going on? So, yes, 8 wing 7 over here, and I am the offender. So I hear what you're saying. So, like with me and my husband, I have to, your wife is a 5. So they're thinkers and they're also detached. And then you said that you showed your softer side with the affair partner. So what I'm hearing is that you're going to have to rewire your brain for your spouse. You're going to have to show up and show that softer side for your spouse. And that's going to take a lot of work. I'm the 8, my husband's a 9. We're in the same category, but we're polar opposites. But I still had to work hard and show up for him. And it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, but we can talk more. Like Jeff said, you got to talk to one of us. Hit us up on the side.
Let's go to another question. Hazel says, how do I get the affair partner for 7 years out of my mind? The thoughts torture me. How do I forgive and forget her? Should I communicate with her? So in essence, she's the betrayed spouse. Her spouse has had an affair for 7 years. Can't get this person out of her mind. So she's thinking, well, what if I have a conversation with her? Will that help? Janella, I want you to weigh in on that, and then we'll go to Jeff.
Well, people handle that situation differently. They decide. Some people will reach out and some people do not. Really, sometimes I think that just adds fuel to the fire, but really the work really starts with you. You have to figure out that you're ready to forgive and to move on. And basically, it takes work. It does take work. It's not something that can actually happen overnight. And if you've been trying to do this on your own and you're not getting anywhere with it, you really need to reach out so we can actually walk you through the process, because it does take time. It does take efforts. And sometimes just within yourself, you don't have the tools to do that. So you'll need people to guide you through that process. And 7 years is a long time. So that is a lot of unpacking to do, a lot of forgiving and healing that needs to take place. So please reach out.
Jeff, what are your thoughts about that, the whole mindset?
Yeah, I want to say I'm not a psychologist, first of all, but I would but I do work with a lot of soldiers who suffer from PTSD. I think you may be experiencing what we call PISD, which is post-infidelity stress disorder, where you feel like your life has been completely destroyed and you're focused on the events of the past. It's very similar. And so we actually go over that at Last Chance Weekend. We actually deal with those. There's a triggers thing that you can get with on the Couples Academy website. I believe it's still up there, right, Hasani? But at the end of the day, what you have to realize is you're trying to drive your car by looking out of the rearview mirror. And you have to have a destination where you want to go. Because if you can't find and form a goal together of what you want to build together, the distance between you and the affair is going to be right here. One of the things that I've noticed with guys working with soldiers who have PTSD is they don't suffer PTSD when they're in the middle of combat. They suffer it when they get home and they're away from the actual thing that caused them the stress and the trauma. They're having a hard time readjusting to a world that's safe. And one of the things I've noticed that's helped them is keeping a mission in front of them to accomplish. Because they come home and they have time to reflect, too much time to reflect. And so by keeping a mission or a goal in your marriage in front of you, it allows you to start building distance from that affair. And so I would suggest that you guys get counseling with one of the trusted counselors. I don't work with couples directly unless they've been through Last Chance Weekend, but I'll tell you, you're in great hands by working with everyone here.
Let's jump to another question. Angel says, this is part one. What is the best way to set boundaries with the affair partner's kid's mother, especially when she lives in a whole other state and the cheating resulted in another child with her? I want part two. I want him to have the best relationship with the child, but visiting out of town when there has been consistent cheating is driving me crazy. I think here's the reality. Whenever there's been a child as a result of an affair, you have two parents of that child. And oftentimes the affair partner parent wants this exclusive relationship with her and your spouse because it's their child. And that can be an ongoing trigger for you. And it's just downright disrespectful and inappropriate for them to have their own relationship with that child. Listen, as long as there's a child, that child has a father and you're married to the father, right? So that you two come as a package deal. So there are no visitations where he goes out of state with her, and they're raising that child or celebrating that child or experiencing that child. There should be an agreement and an alignment between the two of you that when he goes, the both of you go. If we're dealing with a child from a previous relationship that did not cause a betrayal in the existing relationship, that's a different dynamic. But because of the affair, we've seen, because of familiarity, it's so easy when two people are alone in their own space for things to be rekindled, for feelings and emotions to be, resurfaced. And then all of a sudden they're engaged in inappropriate behavior. So to me, you should be a part of that entire equation. You should be a part of the communication that goes back and forth. You should be involved in some of the decision making. He should bring you in on everything regarding that child if you two plan to spend the rest of your life together. It's just what it is. Let's go to another question because they're coming in. Jeff, I still have questions that my husband can't or won't answer. Is there a way to navigate this post Foundry that won't ruin all the work that he did in the program? You once talked about, man, we got books today. You once talked about pulling a butterfly from its cocoon too soon, and I don't want to do that. Do you have any wisdom for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I want you to understand Foundry is a process that's built to not just for infidelity. It's built to help men become better men. That doesn't necessarily deal with the affair trauma. Okay, that's a separate process. What I'm trying to do with Foundry is help men who've gone through the right steps become a better version of themselves so they don't lose what was helped through counseling. What was, the fix that was done through the counseling that's necessary. What you're missing is that one process. I know who your husband is. I'm very glad he went through Foundry. He definitely needs a brotherhood to keep him on path and on track. And he knows that, and we know that, and we love him. He's not done with Foundry yet. He's still got his brothers in that group. They're going to help keep him on path. But I want you to know that it sounds like you haven't actually dealt with the affair yet in the proper way. So
And I would just say,
the process.
yeah, to your point, Foundry is one of the most important programs that we have, but it needs to be coupled with another, right? So has there been couples counseling? Have you gone through that process? If not, we would encourage you to do that. So reach out to us today so we can talk further about that. Listen, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. Lots of questions in here. We can't wait to get to them. Stay right there. Hey guys, we're back watching. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. Got a few questions that just came in. Let's go to Jay. Jay says, my wife keeps on apologizing for the affair, but sorry isn't enough for me to move past this. I need to know why she did this to us. Angel, I want you to weigh in on that.
Okay, yeah. Hey, Jay. And being the offender, I definitely understand your why. So have you guys received counseling? Sorry isn't enough. You're absolutely right. There has to be work that has to be put in. Is she sharing passwords? Is she being completely honest? Do you know all of the details? Is there remorse? You know, I think yesterday the show with Roland and Hasani, they talked about how just saying I'm sorry isn't enough. There has to be empathy with that apology. So yeah, I definitely say reach out. We can definitely help you with that.
And to her point, you know, understanding the why is more than sorry. It's understanding the why, right? And so a lot of times people just don't really understand the why. They may understand it on a surface level, but there's a deeper level to that why that needs to be unpacked. And unfortunately, even though we're the ones who were involved in the act, it's just almost like if you go to, I've used this analogy before, you take your car to the mechanic because something's wrong under the hood. And it's just like, yeah, can you take a look at this? And so, yeah, you go to the wrong mechanic. Yeah, sounds like it could be such and such. Yeah, I think that's the problem, right? As opposed to going to a legitimate service center and they connected to a diagnostic machine and do a full report, and you got a 20-page printout, and you discover that the reason why the carburetor is acting like that is because something in the back left portion of the vehicle somehow is connected to such and such. You're like, how in the world is that connected to that, which is causing that? See, that's what happens when you allow the right people to get under the hood, if you will, and to properly diagnose it. And so many people have a surface understanding of the why, and it is not enough. So to get a deep, comprehensive unpacking of the why, this is why we take people through a process where we unearth, where we discover, where we dig deep and pull everything out to deal with it. And once we understand the why, it gives you clarity and closure, and it also allows that person to become self-aware and to build a wall of protection around themselves so that they never dip into those muddy waters again. So once again, we encourage you to reach out to us for counseling. Glenn has a question. I'm not allowed to speak about her phone use, and I get upset and just shut down when the first thing in the morning and the last thing at night is her touching her phone. Janella, weigh in on this.
Well, you're trying to build trust. You're trying to get in a safe space. And actually, boundaries are important. You have to talk about what is bothering you, what is triggering you. And a lot of times people just don't want to do that work. They want to avoid it, but some kind of way thinking avoiding it is going to bring peace in a relationship. And that's when you have to have those courageous conversations, those tough conversations. Look, when you're on your phone, it bothers me. What are we going to do about this? And it requires the other person to show up and actually do something about it. But if you keep playing that tit for tat game, I don't want to talk about it, you don't tell me anything about it, the relationship is going to stay stagnant. No trust will be built, and the problems will just continue. So it may be uncomfortable, but guess what? Conversations still need to be had, and the work still needs to be done. So.
But my life is on my phone. My email's on my phone. My social media is on my phone. I got my contacts in my phone. I take notes in my phone. I watch videos on my phone. You get rid of my phone, now you have a problem. So now I can't use my phone. So now that's a problem too. So no. See, you're the problem. You're insecure. You got trust issues. You need to work that out. My phone is not going nowhere. I want you to weigh in on this, Jeff, because the phone was an issue in your relationship. How did you resolve it?
I charged my phone by my wife's bed. It literally sits on her side. First of all, and then I also gave up my phone addiction. Like, I've learned that I like my life without, even though I work in the digital world, I've created a life where digital is not the only thing or primary thing in my life. So transparency is key. But I want you to ask yourself a question here, because I used to get jealous of my wife always being on her phone with her friends. Have you created an environment that made you more interesting in whatever she's looking at? That's a serious, serious question, because I'm going to tell you right now, until I learned to be more entertaining than the phone took precedent. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is we have to do the things that we used to do when we were trying to get them, because they weren't looking at the phone then unless they were talking to us on it.
Yeah.
You go.
And go ahead, Angel. Weigh in.
We had the same issue in our house, and we came up with the agreed two things. When we're in the bed, the phone is on the side of the bed. You know, we're not touching our phones. We're engaging. So we're talking. We're having deep connections. That's me time. So have you guys set up me time? And then also, if we're like just around, and instead of me saying, or instead of my husband saying, you always on your phone, how about, hey, babe, I just want to talk to you for a second. Can you just put your phone down? I want to have some me time. It's all about communication, and it's how you ask the question and how your spouse shows up. So
yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's important for couples to have what we will call non-technology zones. So there's a certain portion of possibly the day or a few days a week where we're completely disconnected to our phones, because connecting to the phone is connecting ultimately with other people oftentimes. And so, man, the time you come in, the time you leave out, you're connected to your friends, you're talking, you're chatting, you're texting, but what about me? And I don't want to feel like I'm competing for time, right? So if I'm prioritized and if I'm giving time and it's quality time, I may not feel so threatened when you're on your phone. So once again, it goes into prioritizing the relationship, not allowing anything to interfere with the success of it. All right, we have another.
Real quick. Angel said one thing that was very impactful, and I think it may go unnoticed. What she said is how you communicate matters. I want you to realize that if you treat everything like it's an attack, you will get nothing but defensive behavior. So stop treating it like it's an attack, and maybe you won't get defensive behavior.
Very true. Very true. Jackie says here, please know that you cannot do this on your own. Please call Couples Academy and get the help, not only for your marriage, but for your future. Very true. We appreciate that, Jackie, because at the end of the day, listen, real talk, you can read all the videos. You can read all the books, watch all the videos, talk to all your friends that you want. But I have learned, and Jeff, we were just talking about this in Foundry, how we would try to do things on our own and we got all the information. But even having all the information wasn't enough. There had to be a mentor guiding you through a process. When I think about the most successful people on the planet, I was watching a webinar yesterday, and they were talking about Bill Gates. They were talking about Jeff Bezos. They were talking about all these super duper successful people. And they had pictures with those powerful people and their mentor. And they contributed a lot of their success to the guidance and instruction of their mentor. And we get having a business mentor. I want to grow my business. We get having financial mentors. I want to grow my money. We get having educational mentors. I want to do better in school and advance myself academically. But when it comes to marriage, we don't invest the time, energy, and effort into our marriage and connect with other people that have been where we are and have what we want. And so Couples Academy is not just comprised of certified Couples Academy trainers who can guide you through a process based upon book knowledge, but through experience. See, we take pride in the fact that we were once where you are at. We know what you're going through. There's nothing that you can come up with that one of the team members have not experienced. So you're going to get wisdom and insight and know-how to get to a better place in your particular relationship. I want to bring up a question as we're waiting for other questions to come in. I think what Angel said, and then Jeff, you piggybacked on it, communication. Now, Janella, communication is one of the biggest issues that couples struggle with. I don't care what part of the country they're in. I don't care what their faith tradition is. I don't care whether they've been married for 2 years or 20. People struggle in the area of communication. How important, from your perspective, is it to establish rules of engagement when you're having challenging conversations?
Rules of engagement is absolutely important, because when I was going through my difficult time, I was one that did not respect rules of engagement. 3 o'clock in the morning, everybody wake up. Let's talk. We're going to talk about it now. I don't care what. That is so button-up crazy. And you do not want to show up like I did. So you definitely want to preference the conversation and actually set out a safe time to communicate and think. And sometimes the people who are in their heads, you might have to write it out. So when you are engaging in conversation, if there's some things you want to discuss, that you have that in your mind, and maybe have like a limited list of discussion if you have a whole lot of problems, so the communication can be effectively. And another thing people need to do is actually let their spouse say what they're saying before they actually jump in and just get all in. You're not even listening or giving them time to say what they're saying. You already coming back defensive. It's almost like a fight, and you're like, I think I said was hello, and everything is out the window. So communication is key, and it's very important that you actually respect one another while you're in the conversation, to actually listen. I think sometimes we do a better job with strangers than we do with the actual person that we live with. So communication is key, and learning that is important. And sometimes you just don't have the tools to do it. Maybe you grew up in a home that everybody shouted or didn't communicate at all. They were silent. So you may even need help with that, just to have guidance and having an appropriate conversation.
Yeah, that's so true. Denise says communication is a struggle big time. Some words can set off a bomb. That's true. I think there's such a hypersensitivity to a lot that couples deal with. And so even when someone doesn't have bad intentions, it can come off in a particular way. And I think that sensitivity shows up in counseling sessions. Now, Angel, it's so interesting. A lot of times when we're counseling people, we're supposed to be having a conversation with the three of us, but really it's the individuals having a direct conversation with us, and they're not even talking to one another. Like there's such a struggle for them to look into each other's eyes, to give each other, any type of physical nod of acknowledgement. The struggle is real. And if they can't succeed in the session, then good God, you can only imagine what's happening when they're out of that session. How do you deal with communication challenges of the couples that you work with?
I like Lisa's statement where she said trigger words. I mean, some words can set off bombs. And this actually happened yesterday. My husband said that the words always and never are trigger words. Oh, I say that all the time, Always. So, yeah, I'm like, you always don't. And I'm like, well, I don't mean always. So it's really about, and we learned this yesterday, learning about what are we talking about, the topic, and me being mindful. I had to learn that I got to be mindful that this is a trigger word for him. And it's difficult because I'm like, all right, this is petty. I'm just being real. This is petty, but I care about him. So I'm like, okay, let me be mindful about what I'm saying to him. And so Marco Polo is one that I would suggest, that app where if y'all are arguing at each other, or like Hasani says, record the conversation. you know. And then too, Janella made a point, listen, that is the biggest key to communication. I am an over talker. I was the yeller. So that is a struggle for me as an 8. So I have to pipe down. That is difficult, but it's work. But you do the work, the results will show up.
Absolutely. Gonzalez says approach and tone matters in communication. Very, very true. And Sharonda says communication can elevate or decelerate a marriage. Very true. Listen, I want to acknowledge Jackie. She is a super viewer and listener and supporter of the Couples Academy show. We appreciate you for your donation. Somebody asked a question a little bit ago. I can't necessarily find it. They said, why is everybody using these numbers? What is this about? I would imagine you may be new to the community. So when we use numbers like I'm an 8, my spouse is a 5, my friend is a 6, what we're talking about is Enneagram personality pairing in essence. So in essence, according to the Enneagram personality chart, there are 9 personality types. And once you understand what your type is and who your spouse is, you're learning insight in terms of how to properly navigate through that relationship as it relates to communication, interaction, all types of things, because we're all wired in a particular way. We see the world in a particular way and we show up in a particular way. And oftentimes we have this feeling that says, I'm nothing like my spouse. We have nothing in common. We're just so different. Well, welcome to the club, aren't we all? Adam and Eve were the original odd couple. And every couple that I've ever met is odd in some way. There are differences. And so God is not desiring that we be the same, but that we have oneness. And oneness amongst these differences can allow relationships to work out. So listen, guys, you're watching a Couples Academy show. This was Ask the Expert segment. We hope that we gave you some insight that was helpful to get you through the weekend. We'll see you on Monday for another great series that we can't wait to unpack. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.